Hi, so my name is Samuel Crawford. I'm a second-year master's student under Dr. Katie Jennings, and my project is looking at the different transplant types of sweet potato and their tolerance to herbicides. And as you can see here, we've got a traditionally planted slip, and then this has been in the greenhouse for 7 days, this has been in for 14 days, and this has been in for 28 days. And what the project is looking at is the tolerance of herbicides that these transplants could have compared to the traditionally planted. And prior research that I did last year has shown we've seen good tolerance, but in the 50 cell trays, they would get constricted to the cells and wouldn't have anywhere to go, so the roots would be misformed and misshapen. And so with these grow coons we've got, it forces the roots to go down instead of out, and hopefully this will, as they're further along in their growth stage, we could see some more herbicide tolerance and possible early planting dates. With a 110-day growing crop in some areas, they may not have enough time in the season to fully develop, and this could also help with some canopy closure. As the plants are further along in their growth stage, they will shade out more weeds possibly, and we can also have some potential for some new herbicide registrations with a little bit hotter or products that would be too harsh on sweet potatoes at an early age. With these transplants, they could be further along in their growth stage and would make them more tolerant to the herbicides.
So my name is Stephen Polito. I'm one of Dr. Jennings' PhD students. We've been working on a couple different trials trying to support potential submission of products to the IR4 project for registration, in particular working with some herbicides that we're interested in for potentially controlling weeds that we suspect might be acting as host root knot nematodes. So we started with some trials that were a little bit more broad. In particular, we started with a study that looked at applying herbicides early in the season, 1 day after transplanting, where we were hoping we might be able to see some tolerance for products that would typically be a little bit too hot for application in sweet potato. And from there, we narrowed it down a little bit, looking at some products that we felt were good candidates from there for an additional trial. There, we basically looked at those same products, in particular Linex, Metribuzin, or Tricor, and then both Tough and Shieldex. We looked at those at different rates, and we've tried to target a later application timing, about 28 days after transplanting. In particular, our interest being there that we're trying to get maybe a last application right before sweet potato canopy closure occurs. And then from there, we took products from both those trials and tried to determine how we could fit those into our weed management program. So we did an additional trial in which we looked at the effect of both Shieldex as well as Tough, applied at different application times, either very early at 1 day after transplanting or about 10 to 12 days after transplanting. And we incorporated in our treatments both either applying those herbicides with or without dual magnum. In particular, our interest being, about 10 to 12 days after transplanting is when we usually would want to be applying that. So maybe being able to use those as a part of a tank mix. And then in addition to that, we've also been looking at some other herbicides, including Ultra Blazer. So we saw in our first broader trial that there was some tolerance to applying that early in sweet potato. And so we've been looking at trying to determine how far out we could push that from transplanting to see when potentially that herbicide might become too injurious. All this to pretty much try and work towards submission of some of these products to the IR4 program. In particular right now, Linuron or Linex has been working its way through the project. I know that there is currently work being done on that this year, and then in addition to that, Tricor is currently being evaluated as well. And then there's some hope that we might be able to start work on Tough, as well as I know that this year we started work on Shieldex as well. Thank you for your time and attention. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.